What if the best part of Christmas isn't the gifts at all? What if it's the moment you realize you're not alone? Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story about a small street, a winter storm, and a quiet kind of magic. Welcome to English Speech Lab. I'm Rachel, and this is an intermediate listening story. If you want, you can pause and repeat any sentence you like. Ready? Let's begin. I came back to my hometown 3 days before Christmas. I hadn't planned to come back, not really, but my mom called me on a quiet Monday night and said, "Rachel, I could use you here." Her voice sounded steady, but I heard something under it. Tiredness, maybe, or loneliness. So I booked a ticket, packed a small suitcase, and told myself it was only for a week. Just a short visit, just family, just Christmas. The town was called Brookhaven. It wasn't famous, it wasn't rich, but it was the kind of place that remembered your name, even after you stopped showing up. When my bus rolled in, the sky was pale and snowy. The air smelled like pine, cold metal, and distant wood smoke. I stepped down with my suitcase, and my boots hit the ground with a soft crunch. Snow, real snow, not the wet kind that disappears in a minute. Across the street, I saw lights already glowing in windows. Warm yellow lights, the kind that make you think of soup, old movies, and people who say, "Come in, you must be freezing." My mom was waiting near the little station sign. She wore her green scarf, the one she always wore when she wanted to look cheerful. Her hair had more silver than I remembered. When she saw me, she smiled like she had been holding that smile in her pocket all day. "Hey," she said, and her voice cracked just a little. I hugged her, and she hugged me back so tightly it surprised me. For a moment, I wanted to apologize for being gone so long, but instead I just said, "I'm here." On the drive home, the streets looked smaller than my memory. The shop signs felt familiar, like faces you recognize but can't name. We passed the old movie theater with the red letters. We passed the bakery that always smelled like cinnamon. And we passed Willow Street, the place where my childhood still lived in my head. Mom's house was the same, but also different. Same porch, same old steps, same little wind chime that never sounded calm. But the paint looked older, and the yard looked quieter, like it was waiting for someone to laugh there again. Inside, the house was warm, and the smell of roasted vegetables filled the air. I took off my coat, and my shoulders dropped like they finally believed it was safe. Mom watched me carefully, as if she wanted to learn me again. "You look tired," she said. "So do you," I replied. She laughed just once, and it sounded like a small bell. "Okay, fair," she said. That night, I slept in my old room. The wallpaper was still there, pale blue with tiny stars. I stared at the ceiling and remembered being 16, thinking my whole life was somewhere else. I remembered promising myself I would leave and never look back. Back then, leaving felt like winning. Now, it felt more complicated. The next morning, Mom made coffee and set 2 mugs on the table. She didn't talk right away. She just stirred her cup slowly, like she was mixing courage into it. "Rachel," she said finally, "the community center is in trouble." I looked up. "The community center?" I asked. "The one on Maple Avenue?" "Yes," she said. "They're doing the Christmas market tomorrow night, and they're short on volunteers. Also," she added, "the storm forecast looks bad." I had seen the forecast on my phone. A winter storm was moving in, and everyone was acting like it was a guest they didn't want to invite. Mom continued, "If the market fails, they might lose funding. And if they lose funding..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. The community center had been important to this town. It was where kids went after school. It was where older people played cards and felt less alone. It was where you could take a cooking class or a job training workshop. It was where the town tried to take care of itself. Mom watched me, like she was afraid I'd say no. I didn't want to be pulled into town problems. I didn't want responsibilities during a holiday visit. But I also didn't want my mom to carry everything alone. "I'll help," I said. Mom exhaled like she had been holding her breath for days. "Thank you," she said softly. We walked to the community center that afternoon. The building looked ordinary, brick and glass, but the doors had paper snowflakes taped to them. Inside, people were moving fast, carrying boxes and tables. Someone was hanging string lights like they were trying to catch the ceiling. A tall man with a clipboard hurried toward us. He had kind eyes but a stressed mouth. "Linda," he said to my mom, "thank goodness." Then he looked at me. "And you must be Rachel." "Yes," I said, surprised he knew my name. "I'm Marcus," he said. "I run the center." "Well," he corrected himself, "I try to." Marcus led us into a big room where tables were lined up like a tiny street market. Some tables were empty, waiting. Others had crafts, cookies, candles, knitted scarves, and small handmade ornaments. The place smelled like hot chocolate and glue. "We're missing about 10 volunteers," Marcus said. "Also," he added, lowering his voice, "we have a problem." He pointed to a tall, artificial tree in the corner. It was beautiful, wide and green, already covered with lights. But the top was empty. "We have a star," Marcus said. "A special star. It's been used for years. It's sort of symbolic." He hesitated. "It's missing." "Missing," I repeated. Mom frowned. "How do you lose a star?" she asked. Marcus rubbed his forehead. "We didn't lose it," he said. "It was here yesterday. We locked up. We came back this morning. And it was gone." I looked at the tree again. Without the star, it felt unfinished, like a sentence with no period. "Do you have another one?" I asked. "We do," Marcus admitted. "But that star," he sighed, "it was donated years ago by a woman who used to run our holiday program. She passed away last winter. It mattered to her, and it matters to people here." My mom's eyes softened. "Who was she?" I asked. "Mrs. Hawthorne," Marcus said. I blinked. I knew that name. Mrs. Hawthorne had been my middle school librarian. She used to give me books when I looked sad. She used to say, "Stories help us practice being human." Without thinking, I said, "We'll find it." Marcus looked at me like I had offered him a glass of water in the desert. "You think so?" he asked. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but we'll try." We started with questions. Who had keys? Who was in the building yesterday? Who came early this morning? A teenager named Lee was stacking chairs nearby. He wore a beanie and looked like he was trying to act older than he felt. "I was here yesterday," he said. "I helped Marcus bring the boxes in." "Did you see the star?" I asked. Illy nodded. "It was in the supply room," he said. "On the top shelf, in a plastic bin labeled tree topper." "That's where we checked," Marcus said. "It's empty now." Illy's face tightened. "Maybe someone moved it," he said. "Or maybe," he stopped. "Or maybe someone took it," I finished. Illy looked away. "Yes," he said quietly. I didn't like the feeling that spread in my chest. It felt like disappointment, not just because of the missing star, but because of what it suggested. That even during Christmas, people could still be careless or selfish or desperate. Mom touched my arm. "We don't know what happened," she reminded me. "Let's focus on what we can do." So we did. We signed up for tasks. I helped create signs for the tables. I carried boxes of paper cups and napkins. I tied ribbons around a donation jar. Simple things, but they added up. As I worked, I noticed something. People smiled at each other a lot. Not fake smiles, tired smiles, the kind that say, "I'm stressed, but I'm glad you're here." Then I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Rachel," it said. I turned. A woman stood there, holding a box of candles. She had dark hair pulled into a messy bun and bright eyes that recognized me instantly. "Maya," I said, and the name felt like a door opening. Maya was my best friend in high school. We used to share secrets on the swings behind the gym. We used to promise we'd travel the world together. She set the box down and hugged me, fast and tight. "You're actually here," she said. "I heard you came back, but I didn't believe it." "I'm here for a week," I said. Maya pulled back and studied my face. "You look older," she said. "So do you," I replied. She laughed. "Rude," she said, but her eyes were warm. We worked side by side for a while. We placed candles in glass jars for the walkway outside. We taped signs to the wall. We tied strings around small gift bags for the kids' table. After a few minutes, Maya said, "So why now?" I knew what she meant. Why come back after all this time? "My mom called," I said. "She needed help." Maya nodded slowly. "She always tries to handle everything alone," she said. "Yes," I admitted. "So do I," Maya added, and there was something honest in her voice. I looked at her. "What's going on with you?" I asked gently. Maya shrugged, but it wasn't casual. "Life," she said. Then she gave a small smile. "I run my own little business now," she said. "Not glamorous," she added, "but it's mine." "That's amazing," I said, and I meant it. Maya tilted her head. "And you?" she asked. "You always wanted big city life. Did you get it?" I thought about my apartment, my schedule, my emails, my constant noise. "I got something," I said carefully. Maya's smile softened. "Yeah," she said. "That sounds like the truth." By evening, the center looked better. Not perfect, but alive. Lights shimmered on the walls. Crafts filled the tables. The smell of cocoa drifted through the hall. Still, the tree had no star. I kept glancing at the empty top like it was asking me a question. That night at home, I couldn't stop thinking about Mrs. Hawthorne. So after dinner, I went to the closet in the hallway where my mom stored old holiday boxes. I pulled them out, one by one. Ornaments, garlands, a little ceramic house with a tiny chimney. Mom came in and watched. "You're looking for something," she said. "Maybe," I replied. I found a small notebook in the back of a box. It was mine. My old handwriting filled the pages, messy and dramatic. I flipped through it and saw lists of dreams, places I wanted to go, things I wanted to become. Then one page stopped me. At the top, in big letters, I had written, "Don't forget Willow Street." Under it, I had written, "One day you'll need it again." I stared at the words and felt embarrassed, like my younger self had caught me in a lie. Mom leaned over my shoulder. "You wrote that?" she asked. "Apparently," I said. Mom took the notebook gently and closed it. "You didn't forget," she said. "You just got busy." I wanted to say, it was more than that. I wanted to say, I left because I was scared of staying. But I didn't. Instead, I said, "I'll help tomorrow." Mom nodded, and I saw relief again. The day of the market arrived with a hard gray sky. Wind shook the bare trees like they were shivering. Snow fell in tiny, sharp pieces, not the gentle kind. At the center, Marcus looked more worried than yesterday. He pointed to his phone and said, "The storm's moving faster. We might lose power tonight." Meyer arrived with extra blankets and a box of battery-powered lanterns. "You're prepared," I said. "I've lived here my whole life," she replied. "You learn." Illy was there too, carrying a bag of extension cords. He looked tired, but he kept working. When I thanked him, he shrugged like it didn't matter. But it did matter. At 4 o'clock, families started to arrive. Kids ran inside, cheeks red from the cold. Parents shook snow from their coats. Some older couples came slowly, holding hands. A local musician played soft guitar near the entrance. Hot chocolate steamed in big metal containers. The room buzzed with voices. For a while, it felt like the storm was outside a different world. I stood near the donation table with Maya. We counted small bills and coins. We thanked people who dropped money into the jar. Some people gave a little, some gave a lot, but almost everyone gave something. I noticed a woman with a tired face watching the tree. A little boy stood beside her, holding her sleeve. He stared at the empty top of the tree. He whispered something to his mom. She shook her head gently. Then she kissed his hair. I felt a strange tightness in my throat. It was just a star, but it wasn't just a star. Around 6, the wind got louder. You could hear it pushing against the building. Marcus walked around checking lights and doors. Mom helped an older man find a chair to rest. Maya handed out cookies like she was feeding the whole town. Then the lights flickered. A child squealed, half scared, half excited. The musicians stopped playing for a second. The room held its breath. The lights came back. People laughed nervously. Marcus forced a smile. "Let's keep going," he said. 10 minutes later, the lights flickered again. This time, they went out. A wave of darkness moved across the room. For 1 second, there was complete silence. Then people started talking all at once. Kids asked questions. Adults checked phones. Someone laughed again, too loudly to hide their worry. Maya lifted her lanterns, like a magician showing a trick. "Okay," she said. "I've been waiting for this moment." She turned one on, and warm light filled her hands. Illy ran to the storage room and came back with more flashlights. Marcus said, "Everyone, please stay calm. We have emergency lighting, and we have lanterns. We are safe." Mom spoke clearly, like a teacher. "If you want to leave, that's okay," she said. "But there's no need to rush. We'll help you." People calmed down, little by little. Phones lit faces like tiny moons. The lanterns made the room feel smaller and warmer. Outside, the storm sounded angry. Inside, the town started to take care of itself. Marcus pulled me aside. "If people leave now, we lose the night," he said. "And if we lose the night, we lose the funding." His voice wasn't dramatic. It was just tired. I looked around. A little girl was sipping cocoa by lantern light. 2 teenagers were helping an older woman button her coat. A father was telling jokes to keep his son from panicking. "We can still make this work," I said. Marcus blinked. "How?" he asked. I didn't have a perfect plan, but I had a thought. "Give them a reason to stay," I said. "Not out of pressure, out of connection." Marcus stared at me like I was speaking another language. Then Maya stepped in. "We do a candle walk," she said. "We line the hall with the jars. We turn this into a moment." Illy added, "And music. The musician can still play. It's acoustic." Marcus swallowed and nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "Okay." We moved fast. We placed candle jars along the walkway inside the center. We asked people to keep the aisles clear. We set up a story corner with chairs and blankets. We invited kids to bring their parents, and parents to bring their patients. Maya climbed on a chair and called out, "Everyone." Her voice carried. "We lost power, but we didn't lose each other. If you can stay for 15 more minutes, we'll make this a night you remember." People looked at each other. Some nodded, some smiled, and somehow they stayed. The musician began to play again, softer this time. A gentle melody moved through the darkness like a hand reaching out. Kids sat on the floor near the story corner. Adults stood behind them, holding cocoa and lanterns. Marcus stepped forward. "Thank you," he said. "Seriously, we're going to keep the market open as long as it's safe. And while we wait for power, we're going to share something, a small tradition." He looked toward the tree. "You may have noticed our star is missing," he said. A few people murmured. "It belonged to Mrs. Hawthorne," he continued. "And she believed Christmas was about stories, about kindness, about showing up." My chest tightened again. I felt like I was hearing my own life, described in simple words. Marcus said, "So here's what we'll do. If you want, tell a short memory. A memory of a time someone helped you. Or a time you helped someone else. It can be small. Small memories matter." There was a pause. Then an older woman raised her hand. She stood slowly, holding her coat closed. "My name is Nora," she said. "Last year, after my husband passed, I didn't want to decorate. I didn't want to cook. I didn't want to pretend I was fine. Then my neighbor brought me soup. She didn't talk much. She just sat with me. And that was enough." People nodded. Someone whispered, "That's beautiful." A man spoke next. He described getting a flat tire during a storm and a stranger helping him in the cold. A teenage girl said her teacher had believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. A little boy said his older sister had taught him to tie his shoes. People laughed gently at that one. I realized something as I listened. In the city, I had neighbors I barely knew. I had friends, yes, but we were all busy running. Here, in this dim room, people were slowing down. They were remembering what mattered. Then Marcus looked at me. He didn't call me out loudly. He just asked softly, "Rachel, would you share one?" My mouth went dry. Maya's eyes met mine. She nodded once like she was saying, "You can do this." I stood. I felt every pair of eyes in the room, but not in a harsh way. More like a quiet invitation. "I'm Rachel," I said. "I left Brookhaven when I was 18. I told myself I would never come back." A few people smiled, because maybe they understood that feeling. I swallowed. "When I was 12, I continued, I used to go to the library after school. Not because I loved homework, because I didn't always want to go home right away." I looked at the tree again. "Mrs. Hawthorne worked there," I said. "One day, she saw me sitting alone with an empty notebook. She didn't ask questions. She just placed a book in front of me. It was a book about a girl who felt lost and found her way slowly. She said, 'Stories help us practice being human.' And then she walked away like it was nothing." I took a breath. "But it wasn't nothing," I said. "That small kindness stayed with me. And I think it's one reason I came back." For a moment, the room was very quiet. Then someone started clapping softly. Others joined in, not loud, not wild, just warm. I sat down again, my heart pounding. Maya whispered, "Good," and I believed her. A little later, Illy came up to Marcus with a worried expression. He spoke too quietly for others to hear, but I was close enough. "I need to show you something," Illy said. Marcus frowned. "What is it?" he asked. Illy hesitated, then glanced at me and Maya. Maya lifted her eyebrows like, "Oh." Illy led us to a side hallway near the supply room. It was darker there, but the lanterns helped. He opened the supply room door and stepped inside. On a table, covered by a towel, was something shaped like a star. Marcus froze. Illy pulled the towel back. There it was, the missing star. It was gold, slightly scratched, with tiny engraved lines that caught the lantern light. Marcus stared at Illy. "Where did you get this?" he asked. Illy's face went red. "I didn't steal it," he said quickly. "I swear, I found it." "Where?" Marcus asked again, calmer but firm. Illy swallowed. "In the trash bin outside," he admitted. I blinked. "The trash," Maya repeated. Illy nodded fast. "I was taking out boxes yesterday," he said. "The bin was full, and I saw something shiny under cardboard. I pulled it out. It was dirty and," he hesitated, "it was bent." Marcus leaned closer. Now I saw it too. One point of the star was slightly warped. Not broken, but not perfect. Illy said, "I thought maybe someone threw it away because it looked damaged. I didn't want to tell anyone. I thought they'd blame me. So I tried to fix it. I watched a video. I used pliers. I made it worse at first." Then he added, "I'm sorry." Marcus stared at the star for a long moment. Then he looked at Illy's face, and something in Marcus softened. "You didn't take it," Marcus said slowly. "You saved it." Illy's eyes filled with relief, so quickly it almost made me laugh. "But," Marcus continued, "next time you tell me." Illy nodded hard. "Yes," he said, "I will." Maya exhaled. "Okay," she said. "So we have the star. We have lanterns. And we have a room full of people who decided to stay. That's basically a miracle," she said. We carried the star back into the main room like it was something fragile and important. Marcus lifted it carefully so people could see. A few kids pointed and gasped. Someone cheered softly. Marcus explained in simple words. He didn't embarrass Illy. He just said the star had been found and the tree could finally be finished. Then he asked, "Who wants to help me put it on top?" The little boy I had seen earlier shot his hand up. He looked at his mom with pleading eyes. She smiled and nodded. Marcus lifted the boy gently and held him close while he reached up. The boy's fingers touched the star, and his face lit up brighter than any electricity could. He placed it carefully. It clicked into place. People clapped again. Someone started singing a carol quietly, and others joined in. The musician followed with gentle chords. I looked at the tree. The lights were still off, of course, but the star reflected the lantern glow, and it looked like it was shining anyway. In that moment, I understood something simple. Sometimes, you don't need a perfect situation. You need people, and you need a reason to keep going together. If you want to practice, here are 3 sentences from the story. You can pause and repeat after each one. Sentence 1, we didn't lose power, we didn't lose each other. Sentence 2, small memories matter. Sentence 3, sometimes you need people, not perfection. About 20 minutes later, the power came back. The lights blinked on, and the room cheered like it had won a championship. The tree lit up completely, and the star glowed at the top, proud and steady. People stayed longer than they planned. They bought extra cookies. They donated more money. They hugged neighbors they usually only waved at. Marcus looked like he might cry, but he kept smiling. Mom's cheeks were pink from cold and happiness. Maya leaned close and whispered, "This is why I stay." I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I didn't know what I would do next. I had built a life somewhere else, but I had also left pieces of myself here. Later, when the market ended, we cleaned up together. Illy carried chairs without being asked. He looked lighter, like someone had removed a heavy backpack from his shoulders. I walked up to him. "Hey," I said. Illy braced himself like he expected a lecture. "You did a good thing," I told him. "You just got scared in the middle." Illy looked down. "Yes," he admitted. "I always do that." I smiled gently. "Then practice doing it differently," I said. Illy looked up. "Practice," he repeated. "Yeah," I said. "Small steps." He nodded like he understood, even if he didn't fully believe it yet. That night, I walked home with Mom through quiet, snowy streets. The storm had calmed down, leaving everything covered in soft white. The town looked like someone had pressed a reset button. Mom said, "I'm proud of you." I laughed a little. "For carrying boxes?" I asked. "For showing up," she said. At home, we sat at the kitchen table with tea. Mom told me she had been worried about money, and about the house, and about getting older. I told her I had been worried too, just in different ways. We didn't solve everything, but we named the truth, and that mattered. On Christmas Eve, the town held a small outdoor lighting ceremony on Willow Street. It wasn't a big event, just neighbors, warm drinks, and a countdown. Maya texted me, "Come, you owe me a hot chocolate." Mom and I walked there together. When we arrived, I saw familiar faces and unfamiliar ones. A man named Mr. Patel waved from his porch, holding a tray of cookies. A couple I didn't recognize offered paper cups of cider. Kids ran between adults like sparks. Maya found me and pressed a warm cup into my hands. "Payment," she said. I took a sip. It was sweet and rich, and exactly what I needed. Someone began a countdown. 10, 9, 8. People joined in. 3, 2, 1. Then the lights on Willow Street turned on together. Not perfect, not fancy, but bright. Windows glowed. Porches sparkled. A few people clapped. I looked at my mom, and I saw her smiling in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. I looked at Maya, and she was laughing with someone new. I looked at the street, and it felt less like a place I escaped from. It felt like a place that had kept a space for me, even when I didn't deserve it. On Christmas morning, Mom and I cooked breakfast together. We made eggs, toast, and a ridiculous amount of oranges. We played an old playlist of holiday songs, and we sang the wrong lyrics on purpose. Later, we walked to the community center. Marcus had invited volunteers to come for a simple thank you lunch. When we arrived, the tree was still standing, glowing in the daylight like it didn't care what time it was. The star was on top, slightly imperfect if you looked closely. But that made it better, somehow. It felt honest. Ali was there, helping carry trays. When he saw me, he nodded politely. Not a big moment, just a small sign of promise. Meyer arrived with her usual confidence, but she hugged me longer than usual. "Don't disappear again," she whispered. I closed my eyes for a second and said, "I'll try." It wasn't a perfect answer, but it was a real one. Marcus tapped a spoon against a cup to get attention. He thanked everyone for their work, and he told us the donation total. People cheered. He said the center would keep its programs for another year. Mom squeezed my hand under the table. Then Marcus added something unexpected. "We're going to put a small plaque under the tree next year," he said. "It will say, Mrs. Hawthorne Star. And under that, it will say, stories help us practice being human." I felt my eyes burn. I wasn't the only one. Even Ali blinked quickly, like he was trying not to cry in public. That afternoon, I walked alone for a while. I went past the bakery, where warm cinnamon air escaped each time the door opened. I passed the station, where I had arrived a few days earlier with my suitcase and my doubts. I found myself in front of the library. The building was smaller than I remembered, but the windows were the same. Inside, it was quiet and peaceful. I walked to the old desk area. A young librarian looked up and smiled. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm just visiting," I said. "I used to come here when I was a kid." She nodded. "We get a lot of visitors around the holidays," she said. "People remember things." I looked around at the shelves. I imagined Mrs. Hawthorne walking between them, holding a book like it was a gift. Before I left, I wrote a small note on a piece of paper and placed it in the community bulletin box. It was a simple note. It said, "If you need help, ask. If you can help, offer." Then I signed it, Rachel. That evening, I sat with Mom on the couch, watching snow fall behind the window. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. At one point, Mom said, "You can come back more often, you know." I nodded. "I know," I said. She looked at me, not with pressure, with hope. I thought of the tree with the imperfect star. I thought of Ali trying to fix something in secret because he was scared. I thought of Maya bringing lanterns like she expected the world to break and planned to light it anyway. I thought of Mrs. Hawthorne giving a book to a quiet kid with an empty notebook. And I realized that Christmas wasn't one perfect day. It was a series of small choices. To show up, to speak gently, to help, to stay, to forgive, to try again. Before we finish, let's review a few useful words from the story. Volunteer, community, funding, lantern, storm, memory, and kindness. If you want, pause and repeat them out loud. Volunteer, community, kindness. And now, the ending. On the last night of my visit, I packed my suitcase again. But it felt different this time. Like I wasn't running away. Like I was simply traveling, and I could return. I left my old notebook on the desk. On a new page, I wrote one sentence. "Don't forget Willow Street." Then I added, "This time it's not a warning. It's a promise." Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, you can listen again and catch more details. And if you want, tell me in the comments. What does Christmas mean to you? Goodbye for now, and keep practicing.